Hello, Mifamuda Munakabo. Welcome to Sherix Television, right here on YouTube. Of course, coming to you directly from Houston, Texas, in the United States of America. Today, we get a special program where we bring come to una about Sierra Leone. Today, we want to do a personal assessment of the government of Sierra Leone from the time where in predecessor, when the APC party began for register, began for handover government to the current president and ministers and government and everybody from 2018 to now. We'll get for do a personal assessment. The assessment we'll get for do now today now based on personal opinion and we on observations, what we don't do in Sierra Leone and waiting we don't they happen where all man they see. And that's what they assess now also today. And so we all know, say, from the time where His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, retired Brigadier General Dr. Julius Madabio, get for take over the reins of governance in Sierra Leone. So from 2018 to now, plenty activities we don't they go on. We don't hear boku talk with people that they talk on social media. We don't hear plenty claims that way people that they claim on social media and everywhere. And so today, some of the people that we be they part of them discuss and the way be they observe, way be they watch, way be they listen. Now they get for come today for do an assessment of waiting be done they happen. Now the two people that will get now so today, one now we own brother Mr. Matthew Momo. Of course, when I know see Mr. Momo now a retired journalist. We don't serve on various international media organizations. And of course, right now, as we speak, in an adjunct professor na the Houston Community College Systems and the Lone Star College. And of course, they get vast experience in international operations as well. So now one part we guest and also today in fact advisor to Sherix Television. We also forget now, so we own brother we now Lance Amara. Of course, this now a brother where he get vast knowledge in the operations of government in Sierra Leone. We can take as far back as even before Sierra Leone gets independence, all the way to this present time where we talk to now. You know what's in the happen at government, you know what's in the happen at this country, and you know what's in the oppositions then they try for do as well. So we forget both political views and we also forget technical views on most of the things that we get for happen. So mina Ibrahim Sharif, like how na sabi mina the host, and I get for the ask some questions to the two panelists that will get, and they're going to respond to them questions then they as we go along. But before we do all of that, I will now bring to you Mr. Matthew Momo. Mr. Momo, you there on the screen live, and I go on for me say hello to family.
Me family them na salon, me family them everywhere in the world. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to una usaya day. I'm glad you wanna join our Sherix Media. Me and my brother and my colleague now, Mr. Lance Amara, we can talk to una about issues that we feel to say una need for see from the perspective of waiting them we sabi and what we understand and how they try for bring to una. And so I tell una thank you for the time una they take for can listen to. Yeah.
All right, because that's now Mr. Momo. Brother Lance Amara, you are on. You want to say hello to family?
Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. Thank you, Brother Matthew Momo. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to we audience, wherever you may be around the world. Glad you for joining us, and we appreciate that you serve to take time for join we wherever you are. Again, the views we may go express now, I know see my brother introduce me. They are purely mine based on which I know and based on people where they talk to. I know they talk on behalf of the SLPP in an official capacity, even though being a strong supporter of the party. In fact, that give me the knowledge as to the which in they don't accomplish, which in they plan, which in they do currently, and which in they plan for do. So now that I go talk to and about, not as an official spokesman.
Yes,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much, Mr. Amaral, because we go straight into conversation at this point. And at this point, I go on for start actually by talking to you, Brother Lance Amara. I want for me you give me an idea about the Africanist Press. This BNTM, or even from the time we government don't start, we don't see plenty publications from there. We don't see them. They go on social media. Then they release documents. Then they talk about waiting they happen at State House, waiting they happen at government. What do you think about the Africanist Press and waiting they do?
I think from the get-go, Africanist Press don't compromise what journalism itself stands for. And I'm glad the way we get we big brother Naya, when I a veteran journalist, we go walk us through waiting the do's and don'ts of journalism. We want to maintain credibility. Me na one person I wasn't an avid reader of the publications of the Africanist Press, but once they came on the scene and broke some stories, I was very interested. One of those stories have been the embassy, the chancery building in New York.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when that story broke, I immediately made some calls and I was given assurances that, in fact, the administration was very clear that there was nothing to worry about. And then you see how the whole thing boomeranged
Mm-hmm.
and take a direct hit at an unintended target because knowing what we know about Africanist Press now, you go clearly know say his target was not Samura Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
Which any journalist can do if you know what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
you need to follow through on your story. Get at least, even if you're biased, get as many sides of the story as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we are seeing now is enable come out and even report on the embassy building, the chancery building anymore. In fact, now it make excuses, it blame others. It say now samurai opponents them feed information we don't lead to an indictment. Okay? First of all, journalists not for do that. They don't cross into an opinion situation and not let the reading audience for conclude based on which in the read.
Mm-hmm.
And then he jumped on the first lady in office. So clearly he had a target.
Mm-hmm.
He do that also, look at the premise from which that office has been financed from previous first ladies. You got to establish that premise to say, okay, first lady probably she's not a politician. Where it talks say, they get any funding from government, that there was no line in the budget to say first lady's office.
Mm-hmm.
That office is an extension of the presidency. Okay, he took that to be corruption. Then once they dug in, they found out that really all of the expose which this guy be the claim, and they even follow through to say, okay, this money we didn't withdraw, where did it end up? What are they doing with it? He never cared. All he cared was the sensation where it create around, oh, then withdraw this amount, then withdraw that amount. If you really want to follow up on corruption, you follow the money trail. Where did it go? Where did it end up? He did none of that. And then a boomerang again. Once you dig into the previous first lady, who was surrounded by all sorts of scandals, including a banking scandal at the very end of her husband's administration,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things came out. We were able to find any project with tangible with the previous first lady do. But Fatima Abio's handiwork is all over the place. I mean, look at the incidences of assault on women, rape,
Mm-hmm.
uh, statutory rape of our children.
Mm-hmm.
While in fact, whoever wipe them out, even that the most preeminent law enforcement or law abiding and crime fighting administrations in the world, you can see, not going to be a statistician for see say those incidences are down considerably through the work of this woman. She's building a hospital through funds that she's raising in order to pocket them.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that. Let them find me anything way the previous first lady doing at that country. We'll all go look at it and say, wow. So Africanist Press definitely they miss their mark. They don't trade in credibility. You don't see the type of reporting where you don't revert to. They hang around platforms them that are anti-government,
Mm-hmm.
that make bellicose statements. that in fact border on promoting tribalism in our country. When a journalist, you got to be very careful the people that we pal around with. He's veered into all of those spheres, and his credibility right now for some of us is definitely shot.
Right. And so, yeah, so it looked like, say, the Africanist Press, the way that they do, waiting that they do, then they actually target people that were vulnerable to then kind of informations the way that they share, for me they're able for convince the people that for me they believe waiting that they do. So that brings me to Mr. Momo, when a technical person for make you go tell we how somebody where somebody they share information like that kind of day waiting are some of the questions the way you need for ask waiting go make you believe waiting it is share and waiting go make you not believe waiting it is share waiting are some of the technical questions that we need for ask, Mr. Momo.
I tell you, thank you, plenty, Mr. Sheriff. And again, what my brother Lance don't talk now, he hit the nail in every sector where he's supposed to hit about this Africanist press. Now, press with, I'll be frank with you, not to somebody, not to press I'm in the follow. I'm not in the follow arm, but when I begin to see posts, when they repost things them in WhatsApp, and so I take an interest, say, make a look at this press here, make a see, I teach journalism. So I cannot take things them within the right, until they write in English. I present them to my class, I say, Lord, we use them as a class project. Take a look at this. Let me answer them questions, certain questions. Them. We get, for let you be able to know anything, you got to be able to measure them. Also, measurement now are the key to understanding any problem where you get. So in journalism and especially in academia, we want to evaluate things that we do online. We get this thing what they call the CRAAP, or we call them usually the crap. Okay. The C stands for currency. The R stands for relevance. The A, the first A stands for authority. The second A stands for accuracy. And the P stands for purpose. I'm going to go into each of them things there, and I will tell you, inside the Africanist Press, they do something we're not supposed to do. So let me look at the first part, the currency. So Africanist Press, they pride itself for say it is able to produce materials them with current with things in a salon. That may be true. But the example where Lance give now of say the Chancery Building in New York, a great story. If the journalists them really pay attention and follow them through with the thing. But what was the currency of that particular piece of journalism what they do? The timeliness. Now, this is what they talk about when they say currency. The timeliness of the information. Then we have to ask, has there been an update or a revision of the story? Lance mentioned all the different things that will begin to happen after the story originally broke. No, so, but we not see follow through. We not see follow up. In fact, it creates a new paradigm. It creates a new problem for them, the journalists, and would say then they do this thing here, because they're not able to get the facts right the very first time around. Journalism is about facts. Lance said then sensationalize things. Why? Because you not get the facts and you get to find something for make you readers to be interested. And when you they left the water, it posting you next step, you go hold on. No, so? So now that then begin for do. Then you get to ask the question. The particular story, let's say again, the example we'll ask you, we went at the story and at the example of the building in New York, the Chancery building. The source where that material they come from, the Africanist Press. That material they last don't tell we already say, as they produce them, it was already outdated. So why were they continuing to use it? Yeah? That they bring me to the second part of this CRAAP, which is the relevance. Was that story really relevant? What he add to the the knowledge base for Winner Saloon or for anybody we want to look at them objectively. How important was that information to the question we Lance and the Africanist Press been they try to answer here? Was there corruption? Was the first lady involved in corruption? Last don't tell you for say the first lady in office not get a budgetary line, but not part of the president's office. Therefore, if funds they come, the first ladies they use them. This is not part of the presidency. We have to respect that, right? And it is used in your personal knowledge of networks for raise funds for do something where they make Mama Salon look good. What's wrong with that? Tell me, what's wrong with that? Waiting at the other source outside of the Africanist Press will come up for verify or debunk that information they about the chance rebuilding. I will want for maybe brother Lance, maybe it will look at them two things and then have five things that we'll get for answer in the crap. But I don't give you the currency and the relevancy. Waiting, how relevant all that information, waiting it add to the ecosphere of information as Salon. My brother Lance.
You know, from what you're saying, my brother, there were relevant stories all over the place. We had an ongoing commission of inquiry that had been recently concluded. If this journalist was so interested in exposing corruption, the evidence was being presented real time for all to see. We did not see one reporting from him on the COI. Okay, it almost like say you go into regret mode, like whose kind of worms I don't count open. Look what have I done? And then it tried for overcorrect. What was the overcorrect? It tried for deflect. Begin go into withdrawals from bank accounts. They begin publish stories about people's pay. This guy don't go to the extent now, even scheduled pay raises or pay increases across the enterprise. He don't ascribe his own reason to them. For instance, the NEC employees, back then they were National Electoral Commission, they are ECSL now.
Yes.
They were scheduled raises that were given to all officials. This guy say this now a bribe in anticipation of vote rigging. No journalist, no serious journalist makes such a accusation unless, my goodness, I mean, now anticipatory remark or say this raise, regardless of in timeliness, no, forget about it. This raise to the military, to the police that was scheduled, all of it. Now, because this government want for letting people here take sides in the election with the almost 2 years away. So in this guy's mind, no government not forgive raises. You give raises to employees when a function of the executive through the Ministry of Finance, you do them in this guy in your own way, in your own view, now bribe for letting rig election on your behalf.
Well, my brother Lance, so this don't bring me to the third point inside that CRAAP, authority. Which is the authority with the Africanist Press present for say they're capable for handle this type of story. As a journalist, we have to look at all sides of the issue. You know, the key framework upon which journalism is built is this notion of objectivity. From the very beginning of a story, if you're not able to build an objective framework, you don't belong in that story. You don't belong for write that story there. Because what thing you would do is that you don't get the authority. Were the journalists over there at Africanist Press, were they qualified to handle financial matters at that level? Which knowledge then get for analyze finances, For let it go for point out for say, there has been some nefarious thing assigned to this. This time make authority as a journalist, your authority depend on your veracity. How truthful are you?
Mhm.
How honest are you to the subject matter?
Mhm.
Eh?
Right.
Yep.
Where the journalists them na the Africanist Press, they write this thing. Which credible newspaper, whether na Salon, na England, or na America, yeah, cite them work for say this work from the Africanist Press, we don't look at them and irrelevant in the ecosphere of the public. We need for know which other mainstream
Mhm.
newspaper outside of the opposition people the way they shape this na the social media. Which other person do that one day? If you're not able to answer that question, then you know for say this paper, yeah, it not get relevance. It
Okay.
not get
So,
relevance.
so Mr. Momo,
Therefore, waiting in the put today, not
so
for
Mr.
we,
Momo, in essence,
not for self-consumption.
Yeah, they have
Maybe
a targeted
an
audience.
audience of one,
Mm-hmm.
right.
and that audience of one is harnessed by Corona.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Mr. Momo, in essence, you are saying, you get me, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
can
in
hear you.
essence, you are saying if Africanist Press they go ahead and make all these claims, present themselves in this way, but then we not get a single credible international media for verify or for support what they do, then it means the people they not for listen to them. Is that what you are saying, Mr. Momo?
That is what I'm saying. Now, let me put context here, okay?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
The Chancery building where we talk about now, New York today.
Mhm.
New York na the media capital basically of the world.
Mhm.
Then people had to publish online.
Mhm.
See, we get what they call aggregators in the journalism field. If you
Mhm.
get an aggregator program on your computer, you're going for aggregate virtually any news source in the world where you
Mhm.
want for aggregate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you're going for
True.
look at what they happen at different countries.
Mm-hmm.
You think to say then people then in New York, not go able for use the aggregators then for Africanist Press they online. That when then they do the filtration, they're not going for say Africa, and they're not going for isolate this particular thing. This not chancery building we they talk about for God's sake.
Right. So, Mr. Momo, before you go to the other point, I want to bring Lance in and ask him this question about who say Africanist press they possibly get the information where then they pass on, like then banking information, then account information, then what's in your idea about how they get the information there?
You know, I go speculate,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't get direct incontrovertible evidence. But where is that information stored?
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, First Lady already forgo Kono, if forgo disbursed money in an otherwise cash economy,
Mm-hmm.
we still heavily reliant on cash. That her scheduled trip to Kono starts on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Because of banking regulations, they know how much you need, but they cannot just go to the bank like the APC did in 2018 and back up a pickup truck and load money from the vault.
Mm-hmm.
No, because of transparency,
Mm-hmm.
they wrote a check and presented it on the government bank.
Mm-hmm.
They gave them the money
Right.
following banking regulatory practices as to maximum withdrawals. So
Mm-hmm.
by Thursday or Friday, they don't get the amount they need. For go Kono, for go disburse for woman them, whether not money for fund or whatever she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Who else go get that information but people who work in those banks?
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
because banking itself
Mm-hmm.
survives and earns its credibility
Mm-hmm.
on secrecy. Okay, where bank become the cesspool of leaks, then they compromise national security, then go endanger people and lives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have situations where these people were given away, people then salary, their earnings, information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people then that we society where they earn certain amount for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but they were just giving it away. So where else would it come from? Africanist Press not get a passcode to a Bank of Sierra Leone in database for go see who I would draw money.
Right.
It was inside information that was coming out.
Right. So Mr. Momo, what do you think about somebody working within an institution like that, like the banking institution, where
Yes.
they divulge information like that one day, they give information like that one day to people them where it no say they go use that information to the discredit of government. Uh, what do you think? How that one day they what you go talk about that?
Well, I am pretty sure that the banking regulators in Sierra Leone
Mm-hmm.
and the laws of Sierra Leone
Mm-hmm.
get specific penalties them
Mm-hmm.
for people then where they do this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Africanist Press, like Lanston say,
Mm-hmm.
not get the PIN code to the Bank of Sierra Leone or any of the banks in Australia who say transactions and they take place.
Yeah.
So therefore, it has to be somebody within those institutions or a group of people them within those institutions who are hell-bent on embarrassing not just the First Lady, but the President and the government.
Yes.
This not the motive. Wait, again, at some point, remember we say P is part of this thing, right? Purpose. So we can able to say, let we look at the purpose. What is the purpose of the Africanist Press for reveal information like that? What is the purpose of the people then when they leak that information there?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What is the purpose? Let we ask that question there.
Okay.
What is the purpose of the information when then they try to leak?
Mm-hmm.
Then they try to inform or then they try to persuade?
Yeah.
Which I think so then they do. In this case, clearly, as a journalist, they are neither informing nor are they persuading. Because what they are doing is they are creating, then they create the atmosphere, okay, where we say, oh, look, when they create a false sense of, oh, them against us. Look, when we be dead and still been they do so. Now look what they do. This is precisely what journalists do not forget into.
Yep.
Mr. Sharif, when you we say they can't talk and you mentioned, say, Africanist Press, I took my time to research that particular press. I'll go ahead and I look at I'll go back to 2014.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, they've been the right good.
Mm-hmm.
But beginning from, say, 2017, 18 to the present, they don't actually become devoid of journalistic ethics. They don't become an arm of a political party or a set of dogma where they want to pass on to people in a salon. The guy when at the head of we say in an editor-in-chief. Now, as a journalist, when I editor-in-chief, trust me, I did look at that person there for saying that somebody will know the rules and regulations and the ethical principles and will underlie the framework who they call journalism.
Mm-hmm.
This man, yes, he looks like he's very educated. I think he has a PhD in sociology. Kudos to him. But a sociologist does not make a journalist. The training then different, not different spares them with the inside. He has written quite extensively, and I give him credit. Academically, he is sound.
Mm-hmm.
But waiting in the bring out, the accuracy, you know, get him because you know, Sabi waiting is supposed to do as a journalist.
Right.
By God's grace, he is able to write. He's a good writer. I think he has his bachelor's in linguistics.
Yeah.
Kudos to
So Mr. Momo, hold it right there. Brother Lance, I want for bring you come in. So we know say clearly the waiting the Africanist Press to try for do now for the purpose according to the definition from Mr. Momo. They purpose now for me then disseminate false information and now for me they able for get a hold of people in mind for sway people in mind towards a particular direction. So if I can bring you come in, Ms. Lance, what thing you think say go be the reason why this guy they do this? If they do genuinely, as a way of his own way of promoting democracy in Sierra Leone, or if they do because of a grievance where it hold against certain people in government?
From the onset, I'm going to say promotion of democracy is not on his agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know people that we want to promote journalism, or even the civil society organizations in the country. When you listen to them, the way they talk, they're middle of the road, they present their facts,
Mm-hmm.
and they leave it up to others to get away with their conclusions. This guy has the purpose to persuade in one direction. And I think the more he has failed to adequately do so, the more desperate he's become. Look at the circuit he's on.
Mm-hmm.
He does not um, present himself or avail himself to critical media or to balanced media.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
consistently leaned towards opposition outlets, outrageous ones for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being a fellow who took a video from Cameroon, because Cameroon and Sierra Leone speak very identical Creoles, all right?
Uh-huh.
Where they hacked a woman to death,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and presented it as something that occurred in Kenema. It's in a Kenema.
Wow.
Let me name people where they're lawless.
Yes.
You know what else don't go to that show there?
Mm.
Samura Kamara.
Oh.
Okay, for sure, your level of responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
either as a journalist or as a politician, there are certain outlets you avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Once you dabble into their space, they go muddy you. And let me just veer a little bit. You
Mm-hmm.
see the statement with Samura Kamara making Makeni
Mm-hmm.
about if you know a certain tribe,
Yeah.
the first place where you make them now Ibrahim Fona and show.
Mm-hmm.
It say we economy day in the quagmire way in because President Bio don't flood the government space
Mm-hmm.
with a particular tribe. We don't know what they do. That make the economy stall. I was one of few people who cut on it.
Mm-hmm.
I commented on it and sent it out. Nobody listened. I said,
Right.
here's a guy vying to be flag bearer,
Yes.
making such an irresponsible statement.
Mm-hmm.
The danger in something like that, if you're not somebody that's been impacted by the economy in negative ways,
Mm-hmm.
you can only blame it on one source.
Mm-hmm.
Those unqualified mandate people that have those jobs because they are mending.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he went there, and then nobody said anything. So he can get the audacity for going up in front of a bunch of young children and try to put even a larger target on the backs of mandates in that country. But say, unless you're not mandate, you know to get opportunity. In fact, you come on Makini, Bombali, whatever. Now, only way you come out Kailan, Kenema, it's even Konodon begin go down small. So these are the outlets that Africanist Press pals around with. Uh, Not realizing that every one of those appearances, they chip away at what little credibility he can get.
Yes.
And then when he goes there, then they say outrageous things. He does not put up the caution sign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He plays along.
Yes. Yes.
He
Yes.
plays along. So to me, as you do those things and you tell me say you're not a journalist,
Mm-hmm.
to those of us who are critical minds,
Mm-hmm.
we know you're no longer a journalist. Okay, that you are now uh, outlet hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Whose side you go get the most impact because your previous attempts for destroy or undermine this government don't fail. So now you're on the circuit. You look for whose side people and go listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And what he does not realize, the audience that follows those outlets, they're already there. They exist. All you're doing on a feedback loop.
Yes.
You're not gaining the independence. The people will get critical minds. You all you're doing, you just reinforce waiting knowledgeable people already believe. Now we call it red meat.
Yes.
You know, getting red meat. It's like you get lion on a cage. You're in a cage. You're not sabi go hunt. All right. You
Yeah.
throw a bread, you know, answer.
Mm-hmm. So,
It's a red.
so, Mr. Momo, that brings
Yes.
me to you. You have clearly talked about the CRAP, the CRAAP. You don't talk about the currency, the relevance, the accuracy. You don't talk about the purpose, but there is one A that is remaining. What is that A for?
That A is the accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
The accuracy. What is the reliability, the truthfulness, and the correctness of the content where the Africanist Press they put out?
Mm-hmm.
Answer these three questions. What's the reliability?
Mm-hmm.
How truthful is that statement?
Mm-hmm.
And above and beyond,
Mm-hmm.
how correct is that particular statement as it relates to the subject material in front of you?
Yeah.
Then you can follow that up with another question. Does the information line up with your own knowledge
Mm-hmm.
on the subject matter? Many times when they read things them, we
Mm-hmm.
already know which in that person they write about. We get some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also know if waiting that journalist don't write, if they line up with waiting we they able for do for we self. Yeah. If that thing and not line up, you definitely not want to hang around that particular space there. Because all you they do is na echo chamber day.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go around, if they come around, if you tell the same lie several times, you they begin for believing I'm yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is where
Feedback.
we are with journalists na salon.
Mhm.
They need to get out of this self-fulfilling silo
Mm-hmm.
where they don't put themselves in for say, oh, we know everything. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You just serve the interest of the public way they consume you information. If Africanist Press really want to be relevant, they need to look at the crap again, the CRAAP, and advise them writers and then contributors them say, we need to follow some ethical standards. Do ya? Because we lose face and we lose credibility. I don't read it anymore, honestly. Because, like I say, I gave the 2014 and 2021
Mm-hmm.
write-ups that we then do to my students then. And I challenge the editor in chief, make it do the same thing. Make it take that one day, make it give unto his students them, and let you use the same framework with me don't use, make the students the evaluator. We as teachers and professors, what do? We evaluate our students.
Mm-hmm.
We evaluate them on a very specific criteria where they know. We don't give them the criteria now. Make it take and make it evaluate in your paper and see. If we fail to say it meets the standards and then we can have a discussion.
Okay,
But
so
me feel
so
right
so
now in order to do that.
so that evaluation they can go on right now, or they don't finish them.
My students then they Panama. In fact, this weekend we last
We
week
go on
of
for
summer.
no waiting. We go on for no waiting. Go come out of that evaluation there at the end of the day.
I've
I
been
will be happy
interested.
for sharing with you and Lance,
So
because again,
uh-huh.
because at the lecture now at college, I get for protect them privacy.
Oh yeah, you
But
don't need
I
to
will, I
name
will, I
names.
know will mind for giving a sort of a general
General.
framework
Definition,
which
yeah.
they
Yes,
come
sir.
up.
Yes, sir. We appreciate that. But
And
then let me ask this question about, when somebody, a journalist, they behave in this kind of way, they release information which supposed to be a secret information from government. Because plenty of things the way they don't divulge to the public arena, we're not supposed for did it. When I secret government information. So when somebody they release that kind of information and whether he is right or wrong, waiting at some of the legal issues that we go get into, based on your own knowledge, Mr. Momo, I get for ask the same question to Lance, but it looked like say the Africanist Press don't release boku information, whether they are right or they are wrong. That's not what we are talking about. But waiting that they possibly play with when it comes to legal matters.
Well, okay. So for answer this question, we need to frame them into two parts.
Yeah.
The first part is that the location where the Africanist Press Day in the United States, it's Philadelphia,
Okay.
in the state of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, they are held to the libel standards within the state of Pennsylvania. If the government of Australia want to pursue them, it can pursue them at the Commonwealth Courts of Pennsylvania for libel. Okay, because na Sierra Leone right now, I understand, say, the government will now scrap the libel laws. Am I right, Lance? Is that true?
The criminal libel law.
The criminal
Okay,
libel.
criminal.
The
Okay,
civil libel law, I think, is still there. Now we didn't
okay.
criminalize them.
Well, okay. So
You
if
know.
the civil libel laws then they,
Mhm.
government or a representative of government can hold them to court
Mhm.
on this. The first lady or the first lady in representative can take them to court.
Yeah.
I don't think saying that a journalist or a journalistic operation will get a lot of resources unless I did not read there because I know
No,
when you did look at paper, you did look at that section which I say about us.
Mhm.
It will tell you a lot about within that entity they about, which kind relationships and then get.
Yeah.
The final thing, the way you ask this question about legal exposure,
Mhm.
the journalists them within that press, particularly the people them way don't involve themselves in the leaking of sensitive government information.
Mhm.
I will only give them one example. I think say you and Lance will now also know about Julian Assange, right?
Right.
Of WikiLeaks fame, right?
Yes.
Today in a jail in London.
Mhm.
They fight extradition for camp
Extradition.
in America.
Mhm.
The government of Sierra Leone get an extradition law with the government of the United States. We go back to the 1930s. They can ask under that law, under that regime, they can ask for the extradition of the principal owner or the editor-in-chief of the Africanist Press. He can be in a lot of hot water if the government of Sierra Leone decides they want to pursue. I wrote a little bit of thing where I put in one of the forums and what I outlined the things and way they expose himself to.
Mhm.
I say, if anybody sabi and let them pass that information they on to for making left for expose himself. He looks like he's a young man. He's got a bright future.
Mhm.
But it is step on that future day
Mhm.
in the name of trying to please an audience of one.
Mhm.
This is dangerous. Not with journalism that one day. It hurt me as a profession, as a person at that profession day, where I see things like that, where they happen. Because
Right.
that day they see we go on WhatsApp, all of it. Do you know about the African? I don't want to know about the Africanist Press because they don't get anything for add of value to me.
Nothing.
Knowledge.
Nothing.
Right. So, Lance, this now you now a member of the Sierra Leone People's Party. We're not the party where they in power right now, and most of what the Africanist Press they do, then they do for hurt the reputation of this government and the political party SLPP. Now, speaking from a personal point of view, what do you feel say SLPP and the government for do personally for address this issue of the Africanist press because they don't do one for a very long time now. They don't release boku classified information out there in the public arena. What can you suggest to your party?
Well, there are other ways of where you can look at this because if you focus too much on them as a party,
Mm-hmm.
you give them a stage and a platform where they probably not deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a political party, I'm not sure their attacks. Yes, while in fact an attack on President Bio is an extension of an attack on his party, but the target has been the president and his administration.
Mm-hmm.
And to brother in point, when you take what you do, you take and go into the military, where he was posting the pay scales or salaries of senior military officers,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to waiting the non-commissioned officers then they make.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the wrong commentary, for say, well, look at your life. Look at how much they're paying your boss. It is that many more times. If I say just 30 of the top brass in the army, then pay enough for take care of all of our issues of poverty.
So in essence, he's inciting
It's
resentment inside
inciting.
the army.
And the military was very proactive once
Mm-hmm.
that information came out. Because I saw a clip of the CDS,
Mm-hmm.
the Chief of Defense Staff, where he addressed the army.
Mm-hmm.
He even reminded them, say,
Mm-hmm.
the president don't allocate pay raises spanning 3 years. They say they are going to be done in 25% in increments. And I think they didn't realize, one of those now or the second part of it about to happen. But they were very proactive. One thing about Army, very professional class of people. You can assume, say, well, they're all mostly APC loyalists and stuff like that. But trust me, it is one of the most diverse institutions where the soldier man to encompass soldier man, no, they look say, Limba soldier, Mende soldier. Once they're a soldier, they look at each other as one. And discipline, in fact, 90 help maintain the cohesion within the armed forces. But is the goal clearly to stoke mutiny in our army.
Okay. So, Brother Lance, would I get for hold because the thing just went off? So, but anyway, my family, this is now a very critical discussion what we get now. So, pertaining to waiting the Africanist Press to do and waiting at the achievement of government from 2018 to now. So, we get for come right back and continue this discussion. But for now, we want you to stick around. No, not yeah, not to me. So are the Adam are the same? They are the
The intention of somebody will go into the military,
yes,
and begin for stoke as those divisive posts, like people in salary.
Yes.
The army are the most diverse and institution of our country, and they because of their level of discipline, it will take more than the effort we Africanist Press and APC operatives and they make for succeed at what they do. So the CDS was very proactive. They go in and tell the employee, the soldier them, when the president plan the scheduled pay raises, and those are already occurring. In any country, including where we enter on base. You see who side the CO the leave. Sometimes are just a 1-star general.
Yes.
As most bases most people think that 4-star general in every base. No. Even on the ship. You look at the living quarters of the single-star general versus the rest of the non-commissioned officers they leave. Okay? You'll be shocked. Some of these people have people doing domestic work around their houses. They have drivers. I mean, just wouldn't say a single-star general or 2-star general they count on base. You just see how they clamor for be prepared for that visit. So the army are a different discipline, but as usual, these are people we honestly, then patriotism not to that country. Because anybody with a history of USA will come out.
right.
Between 19, and to USA, we end up with his current president by coincidence was very instrumental in ending that bloody civil war. Right. But let somebody they stoke mutiny in our army. This falls under the threshold of which the president says APC not good for themselves and they're not good for that country.
Right. So, Mr. Momo, make a bring you in. Let me see somebody where they portray himself as a journalist in the country, and they don't do all kinds of things for bring distraction, embarrassment to the government, but even though they not succeed yet, and now they extend down to the country's national army, wherein they want for create division within the army, they want for create resentment among the ranks within the army. Now, looking at that from that perspective, you think say it is okay for let the Africanist press then just left them because they don't remove this libel laws, even though that the criminal one they remove. If you say okay for me then continue for just the do this kind of thing where potentially if we don't address them, it will end up for affect the country at the end of the day.
Well, make a answer your question with some bit of news where I will give to you now. One of the things that the Africanist press do, because of all of these machinations and whether they get themselves involved in the journalism profession, we get this group called the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ. Guess within the Africanist press Pinondu. They lodge a complaint against the government of Sierra Leone to the CPJ. Being a member of the CPJ, I am part of, as a member of the Journalists Association in America, yeah, I get access to some of them things. So what I've been looking at things, I can't see per se, the Africanist press. Again, remember I've been saying, them people there, yeah, if anybody don't ever quote them, stories them. But here they are in the CPJ database for say they don't lodge a complaint against the government of Sierra Leone. Now, what I have to wonder about here is this. Is the government of Sierra Leone aware? They're aware for say the CPJ get a complaint against them filed specifically against Chernobyl, I think that's his name, the editor-in-chief of the Africanist Press.
Right.
This is not a problem where Sierra Leone need for sort out. Because if we go in the CPJ's book for say we know they respect the traditions of journalism, they have to put two stories them out. If somebody not be know that one day, I hope say the media team na salon when they know already this, then we take the time for let them see what is CPJ get on them. And then get in touch with the CPJ. Committee to Protect Journalists. This is not a worldwide committee where we they look for. Remember, like the Palestinian journalists where the Israelis then kill. Well, the CPJ don't take over that case. Okay, so this is how important and formidable that particular group is. But look at it, again, the Africanist Press presents itself as a legitimate press. Well, the accreditation, basically, I think, say probably not from Pennsylvania. So we therefore look at them things say, yeah. Then things say they're important. Now, this inciting of violence, particularly wanting to create an insurrection in the army, this is a very dangerous thing.
They did it with teachers.
Yes, not to outside journalists then therefore put themselves. He can be extradited for that. He definitely can be extradited if the government want to pursue him.
Right.
That story where last they just tell we say the commander began for talk to NCOs them, non-commissioned officers them. This can be a basis for making them ask the embassy of Sierra Leone there for lodge a case against her for trying for extradition. He may be an American citizen, but if he make the mistake, he step foot in any country, or of course America gets extradition treaty with with Sierra Leone, but he step now an African country, we get an extradition treaty with them. Let's ask Julian Assange. What's he do? They arrest him.
And I don't know his immigration status, but there are people also who have the tendency to play to the asylum possibilities, where they entangle themselves in situations where they present an asylum case to say my life is in danger, and where he will be roundly rejected if he did. Now, the scores with Sierra Leone continue for score and increase on press freedom under this administration.
Yes.
In fact, one of the areas where the MCC look at press freedom.
Yes.
Okay, there's not a single journalist in Sierra Leone in jail or anywhere because they reported on something against the government of this administration.
Not
None.
at all. Not at all.
So he's going down a dark road, a muddy road that will not serve him if that is his intention. I don't know his immigration status.
I don't either, Brad Land.
But as the brother have said,
Mhm.
he's threading on very dangerous path when you take that stuff into the military. He attempted it with the teachers.
Yes.
And you look at teachers anywhere in the world, all right, down to where we stay, brother, Texas.
Yes.
The average teacher makes around $25,000.
Oh, they're not increasing, by the way.
Yeah.
Now they make $38,000 a year.
Okay, so it's
And
the
even-
average, the medium. The
Yeah,
medium,
even
that's
that's
great.
a little below.
Because you take the high, the medium, and the lowest entry level.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you never read somebody to go talk, say, oh, look what it is. So pretended they make 200,000-300,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Versus you, the teacher, with in front of students every day.
Yes, sir.
Okay, teachers' salaries, when you look at them across, they even went as far as taking a videotape of a parking lot of a school in China. What they did not do is indicate whether or not that was a private school. So some of us went in and responded and said, well, you go to Yale or Harvard's parking lot where professors and lecturers park their vehicles versus go to Florida State or University of Florida where professors and lecturers park their cars. The average salary of a Harvard or Yale professor is probably 10 times that of somebody that teaches at Florida State.
Right.
That is
Harvard,
true. That
Yale,
is true.
those are private schools.
That is true. That is
So
true.
they were presenting that stuff. Hey, this is the high school, so.
So
Nah,
yeah,
nah,
so,
nah, China,
so
nah, high
gentlemen,
school.
Mr. Momo, once
Yes.
more again, you know, at the end of the day, all this thing where they do, now for they're able for convince the ordinary Sierra Leonean for turn against their own government. And so plenty Sierra Leoneans and they were ignorant of how they for vet information, for really know which information they for trust and which one not for trust. So I really want for me to go back to that issue of how you evaluate information when they appear on them platforms there, especially social media platforms. You know, I want you to talk on that, sir.
Okay. So I'll go through them again quickly, right? The concept is called CRAP, C-R-A-A-P. Now the concept that one day.
Well, yeah,
The
so
C-
Mr. Momo, not to the concept. Now, how for evaluate, you know, that the
Name.
yeah.
Now the talk. Now then tools they will use for evaluate. How
Okay.
current is the information?
Because I remember
How
when you used to
relevant?
be the talk, I remember when you talk about academic and non-academic, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Right.
sir. So we use the same system for evaluate both academic and non-academic writings. Academic writing, the only thing we make a different is that it's peer reviewed.
Okay.
Before you publish anything in an academic paper or a journal or any academic setting, it's reviewed by your peers. Now, the same subject matter, we understand that subject matter. And in fact, some of them, they are above your own understanding of the subject matter.
Okay.
With today's citizen journalist, this is the unfortunate thing. Everybody with a smartphone has become a journalist. This is not the critical part this society don't reach. The doubling down of everybody we're able for sit down in laptop and type and say anything we want for say. But there are guardrails where we within at the profession who they follow. And when we they see people, then they violate the guardrails and they hurt not just them, but we own profession.
Okay.
Because if they not trust the journalist, then the message when it comes from the institutions, then what would they report on? The people they not going to accept that.
Okay.
So first and foremost, you get for make sure for say when you see something, not take them at face value. Evaluate them based on other source system. If they say that man a thief man, yes, now that they don't tell you. But let them tell you, Usai be non go thief. Waiting, Usai then charge and say in a thief man, which court of law don't convict and say in a thief man? Because accusation by itself no mean nothing until you don't able for go through the steps and for validate for say what thing will accuse you of it true. Yeah. Now we round and up by coming back to this Africanist Press and this issue. In fact, the latest what they do is they say the president take 92,000 pounds.
Yeah, 94.
94,000 pounds with them na London.
Yeah, UK.
This wire so now a big problem for that press day. If maybe they work for the Salon government, are they at the embassy or are they at the chancellery na New York? Tomorrow, Monday morning, Africanist Press, they go na court for let them put an injunction against them for publishing something where they not get no reason for publish.
Right.
Because that's not a national security issue. In other words, you put the president and the president in entourage in jeopardy. Now you don't tell the whole world how much money it take for travel. If somebody double down one day, they're not going to do something bad. God forbid, to a president. This is dangerous territory. This is not a propaganda anymore.
Right.
Lives are involved here, sir.
Yeah.
So Mr. Momo, finally, in your own words, what they tell me is that what the experience with the Africanist Press, not they within the realms of journalism. Is that what you are saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
These are not journalists. These are not journalists in the true tradition of journalism. Right. Then these are people that we sabi for right and then sabi for sensationalize things. Just like what Lance been say, sensation they sell paper, but at the end of the day, you know one for associate yourself with them paper than they anymore. You get many different sources. Again, Sherix Media and I will dip so today. Now, one of the most credible right now, na this ecosphere, na the journalist ecosphere, na Salon. People then they Salon where they watch their young people then where they on this media. Then they turn back to you. Sometimes they send them to me say, you don't see this. I say, hey, na me own man no, na all the na Asabiam. Right. You know, so you, the listener, you, the reader, you, the audience, you therefore make the effort for find the information where either they make sure say what you don't read not true, or you will tell you for say that information they is not good. But going back to the government therefore be proactive. When you see this man don't begin to leak, then government information here. People then they inside that we government need for pay attention to. Because the next thing when they go leak, now the president is schedule when nobody no need for know. Right. And then they will be dangerous for country.
Brother Lance, looking at everything we don't discuss today and waiting Mr. Momo don't say, waiting go be your own personal advice to the people of Sierra Leone when they elect this government and where the Africanist Press don't do everything humanly possible for present this government to the people there as a bad government. And it don't go to the extent for even create resentment with armed forces, for let there be insurrection within the armed forces, the teachers them, and all of that. What's going to be your advice to both the people of Sierra Leone and to the government with regards to this kind of issue?
Well, thank God they have been unsuccessful. They not don't succeed in the teachers and the military so far. But let's consider Udana an audience. The audience within the Plato, where we brother rightly designate as an audience of one, self refer to young people them as munkus. Okay? Not to anybody say is saying a munku politics. Because when you say you prospective flag bearers are all the munku politics in the practice, that means that they're appealing to munku people in munku ways, we go resonate with them. Otherwise, you're not going to practice something we know they resonate with you. He said that out of his own mouth.
Yes.
That audience way Africanist Press the Plato. I don't know if they're redeemable at this stage anymore because they have been exposed to years and years and years of misinformation and propaganda. Now, we have a younger generation of that same audience, you know, after them, papa them, the young generation, they are well read, they are more sophisticated. We continue for use outlets like yours as a political party, as a government, for enlightening them and for pushback. Because like the average person, if somebody tell and say, let's assume say a true and withdraw or then send money 94,000 or presidential trip to UK for 2 weeks. The average person will probably understand, say, in fact, where president go, decide where they stay in a secure place.
Yes.
The people where they go with, get for stay with them for the most part. That the prices of which they will pay in that place, not to then they determine them. And first of all, not to the president. They go ask for that money, we're ready for travel.
Right.
The president get a protocol process. Through in PA and wife, then go sit down and look at the schedule if not personal trip. If not official trip, I'm not sure how much involvement the wife will get, but again, now in wife, now in spouse.
Yes.
They have competing schedules sometimes.
Right.
But first and foremost, the president will say, hey, I want to take vacation for 2 weeks. I want to clear my calendar for this span of weeks.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then the protocol team goes to work, coordinating with the High Commission in London. Okay, where are the safest place? When the president they come, we get for involve the British authorities. You just don't grab, you go England, if not an official trip, you expect to be accorded all the protocols.
Yes.
That was an official trip. So there's probably an instance where they go even pay for their own extra security.
Okay.
There's lodging, there's per diem for an entourage, in security where the care go, the people where the care go, in PA, in WEF, in PA. Okay, it takes money to run any presidency.
Absolutely. Yes.
Joe Biden's salary is about $400,000 a year. But do you know what it takes to run the White House? Over $20 billion a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Airports in the air cost about 100 and some thousand an hour. Okay, for a job that pays about $450. But the average person, when then people had a targeted audience, that is sensational aspect, now they push at them.
Yes. Yes.
The average person, when them people had on the cater to from 1968, don't even know how government work. So this is the audience, thanks to social media. We are slowly but surely, gradually breaking through to them. And we're not relenting, as you may know, Ibrahim.
Yes.
You see me out there and a bunch of other guys doing it not on behalf of the government, because we believe in this government. Now, the belief we're getting what this president to do. We don't see the development in 4 years. That was the prior 11 years.
Yes.
You have to have blinders on. But every day you talk to people and sit in there, post up somebody who don't see all this and say not see nothing. Yeah. How do you assess a person like that for misinformation? Just feed them the red meat in the bag.
Okay, so brothers, we have gone slightly over an hour in this program. I want to take the opportunity at this point for express my thanks and appreciation to Una for this discussion. I think this is now one of the best discussions we will hold on Sherix, as we can always do. I tell Una plenty thank you for Una time, especially Mr. Momo. If you don't there with me from this afternoon, you don't devote this day to this. Of course, Lance is always here available. Me family, the next week we get for talk about the assessment of the government of Sierra Leone since 2018 to present day. The two panelists that we'll get today, and I then get for come back for let us talk on that. We'll not be getting enough time for talk on the two issues there, but we'll get for take them line by line, step by step, for discuss some of the accomplishments of government and some of the challenges that they don't face. So once more, Mina Ibrahim Sharif, and of course, I come to Una from Sherix Television, live in Houston, Texas, in the United States. I want to tell you now, plenty thank you, my family.